Have you ever had writer's block or felt like you couldn't solve a problem? Do you ever feel like maybe you just don't know what you want to do with your life? Well, spoiler alert, everybody goes through these kind of problems all the time. It's very, very normal to have these, but the answer's all the same. It comes from creativity. Creativity is the answer. So let's dive into how to have more of that. Hi, my name is Tyus and I make videos about personal freedom, escaping the rat race, living your very best life. Now, you can't have freedom without having options, and you can't have options without having some creativity. So that's what we're gonna talk about today. Now, if you have never hit subscribe to my channel, hit that button once. If you have hit subscribe, well, if you've already subscribed, hit it twice. And if you never intend on subscribing, hit it 3 times. That was my creative and slightly evil way of getting more subscribers. What is creativity? It's original ideas, it's imagination, it's artistic work. In this video, we're going to talk about what stops creativity, how to get that creativity flowing. We're going to talk about 9 creativity hacks, things that you can do to get yourself more creative, and we're going to talk about the common mistakes people make along that journey. So what blocks people's creativity? What is stopping them? There's 3 primary things. One is that they outsource creativity, a second is they get too many distractions, and the third is something called focus blindness. We'll go into each one of these because I know that sounds confusing. Outsourcing creativity. Normally, I'm a person that loves outsourcing. I made a video about outsourcing. I'll probably link it somewhere up here. But outsourcing creativity is not really the same thing as like outsourcing tasks and labor. Outsourcing creativity is essentially not taking responsibility for opportunities in learning. We now live in a time where there are so many resources all around us that we don't often search for the answers ourselves. When we have a problem, we just Google it. We search for the answer. We pull up our phone and type in the question. And the answer is delivered to us instantaneously, which in many cases is fantastic. But when it comes to expanding our creativity, it's not great to just be given the answer. It actually robs us of the process of looking for alternative routes and alternative solutions. And sometimes those alternative solutions have never been thought of before. I know it seems like there's a lot of people that have been alive a long time coming up with a lot of solutions, but oftentimes somebody will come up with something new if the answer is not just given to them on a platter. So what's the solution to this? Well, there's a really, really easy solution called the 15-minute strategy. Basically, when you've got a problem in front of you, don't look for the answer. Just don't ask for help on it. Instead, give yourself 15 minutes to try and find the answer. And when I say find the answer, I don't mean find it online. I mean, find it up here. I mean, look for a way of solving the problem by yourself. If somebody were to hand you a puzzle, one of those little game puzzles, and ultimately they said, oh, and here's how you solve it, well, there's no process in learning. You get nothing out of that. So if you dedicate yourself to having just 15 minutes, that's not a lot of time, to trying to solve the problem, and if you can't solve it, great. Go online, find the answer, call for help, phone a friend, whatever the case may be. But give yourself a little bit of time to try and solve that problem, because what it will do is it'll exercise those muscles of creativity. The second thing that can really stop creativity is too many distractions. We live in a very, very fast-paced world, and that's just thrown at us all the time. Everything's coming at us a mile a minute. It's all jump cut, jump cut, jump cut. It's crazy, it's distracting, it's overwhelming, to be honest. And when you're in that state of overwhelm, when you're constantly distracted, it's really hard to focus on solving a problem or creating something brand new that's never been done before. There was a study done in 2012 that showed that women handle these distractions better than men. However, it is a problem overall. The other problem is the opposite of it, which is called focus blindness or too much focus. Have you ever lost your cell phone and you're looking around, you're asking your friend, hey, where is my cell phone? And they're like, it's right in front of you, it's on the coffee table, or worse yet, it's in your pocket, or even worse, in your hand. That happens because you're so focused on finding your phone that you actually miss what's right in front of you, which is the phone that you're looking for. Now, for some people, tiny distractions will actually help reduce this, maybe background music or something of that nature. But it's ultimately a balance between having too much focus and too little focus that puts us in the zone, or in a state that we call flow. So what is flow? Flow is the balance between something being too difficult and too easy, between you being too capable and it being a challenging activity. Now, if something is too difficult, it gives us anxiety. If something is too easy, if we're too capable and we're so easy it's so easy for us to handle it, it makes us bored. So then we dismiss it. If you're dealing with the anxiety side of it, the way to handle that is, honestly, it's just to make it easier. And you do that by breaking things into smaller chunks. You take a large project and you make it into small pieces, and then you handle it piece by piece by piece. The metaphorical and actual human giant, Tony Robbins, gives the example that if you wanted to go to the gym and you're struggling with that because it seems like so much to do, you've got to put on the clothes and grab your gym bag and drive to the gym and then get in there and check in with your card, and then you have to go to the locker room. He basically makes all these steps and you're bringing that into one thing. It seems overwhelming. It makes you anxious. It seems too difficult. However, if you break that up into separate little pieces and all you got to do is a little piece, all you've got to do is, I'm going to put on the gym clothes. That was that job done. Next piece. And you do the next part of it, well, then everything seems a lot easier to get done. It doesn't seem overwhelming. Now, on the other hand, if you are just a ninja, you're so skilled that the task ahead of you seems really, really boring, well, then the opposite is true. Now you actually want to make it more difficult to get you into a state of flow. So how can you make something more difficult? Well, you could add complexity. You could try and do the task faster than you've ever done it before. You could try to make yourself more efficient in how you do it, change the process. Maybe you could combine that task with something else. Maybe it's time to get creative about how to do that task. And in getting creative, you'll actually build your creativity more. If you want to learn more about flow, there's a book called Flow by, oh my God, look at this name, oh, come on. Can we put the name right here? The guy that wrote the book Flow, Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. I mean, that's impossible. People say that Tyus is an impossible name. This is an impossible name. What's going on here? So let's get into some of the basic stuff you can do to increase your creativity. With the first one being the most boring, which is to get bored. Boredom is actually a really useful emotion. Boredom tells you that what you're doing with your time right now is not valuable. And unfortunately, because of technology, it's really easy to never get bored anymore. But boredom was a valuable thing that we used to have happen to us all the time. Now we just pull out our phone and play a game or check social media or watch the next thing on television. But boredom is actually a tool. And if you decide to get bored, if you decide to do something that is so mundane, ideas will pop into your mind. It just seems to happen. The second thing you can do is you could start over. If you're doing a task and you're really running into a blockage you can't seem to get through, start over. Just hit the restart button and literally begin again. Hey, this fixes computers. Why couldn't it fix you? And then here's another one. You can also set boundaries that you might not normally have set. Essentially, if you have a task and you can add additional restrictions, so maybe you were going to write a paper, but now you're going to add a restriction. You're going to write that paper in 10 minutes. Well, now you've got to get a little bit more creative about how you write that paper. Or maybe you're going to write that paper, but you're not going to use the letter M in the paper. Well, I guarantee you're going to get more and more creative. By adding actual constrictions, it doesn't restrict you, it actually liberates you in being more and more creative. The next trick on improving your creativity is to change the way you output the information from yourself. So maybe you're trying to write a term paper or a book or something of that nature, and you're running into a stumbling block. Well, maybe you could change what you're writing it out on. So for example, if you're typing it on a computer, maybe put the computer aside for a second and grab some paper. And you could even change that. Maybe lined paper doesn't work for you, change it to graph paper. Believe it or not, just that simple little change might do a lot. You could make bigger changes. Maybe you're going to do an audio recording of what's on your mind to try and get that out there. Or maybe you're going to outline it on a whiteboard beforehand. All of those things could help. I found that when I was outlining these videos, I first started doing it in my notes program and I really struggled. It took days and days and days to get a video outlined until I just changed the software I was using. I needed to use an outlining program rather than just my notes program. And what took me days to get done changed to being just minutes to get done. Suddenly the creativity was just flowing. So if you find you can't write, grab a typewriter. I don't know. Change the output of what you're doing. But you can also change the inputs that you're taking into yourself. You know, it's all about information in versus information out. So go and grab some more books or TV shows or podcasts or music. But if you've only been reading the same kind of books from the same kind of authors, you're only hanging out with the same kind of people, maybe you're eating the same kind of food and drink, change all of that. You can change your environment by tidying up or get around different people, whatever the case may be. Changing what you're experiencing can have a dramatic effect on your creativity. Another thing you can do is you could take a nap. Salvador Dali used to take a nap holding a spoon in his hand. He found that as he was dozing and going to sleep, it would change the way he thought a little bit. And as he fell asleep, when he knocked out, he would drop the spoon, which would wake him up, and he would have new ideas at hand. I know I've read from another author that he takes caffeine pills, and as he's going to sleep, he takes them right before he goes to bed, and the caffeine kicks in and he wakes up, and it puts him in a different state, so he finds that he can write really easily in that state. You can also ask yourself a question before you go to sleep. Your brain operates at different wavelengths, at different frequencies rather, and so alpha, beta, different wavelengths. Brainwaves. There's the word I'm looking for, brainwaves. So as it goes from different brainwaves, your brain kind of thinks in different ways. You might find that some of your very best ideas come from right before you go to bed. For me, that happens all the time. It's once I put everything away, suddenly creativity just comes at me at different levels, and I'm finding all these amazing ideas, and I put a notepad by the side of my bed so I can jot them down because they're just not something I have in my normal day-to-day activity. Sleeping and taking a nap might be the way to get past that. Also, move your body. Your body and your mind are not separate entities. They work together, and they work together in a really, really profound way. However, the easy thing without going into a bunch of medical jargon or talking about neurons or talking about hormones and how those all link up, the easy thing is your body and mind work together. When you move your body, it changes your mind. When you change your mind, it affects your body. That's just how it goes. They're linked. So go out and take a walk, go to the gym. It's going to change the way you think. It's going to spur creativity. It's one of the activities that some of the most creative thinkers on the planet do all the time. Steve Jobs used to constantly go for walks with his staff or with new hires just to get new ideas flowing. You can also start by just writing a single word. A lot of people stumble because they're trying to solve the entire equation. They're trying to get everything out there. They're trying to write the whole book in one sentence, or they just got too much on their brain. So instead, start by writing just the smallest amount down, or start by taking the smallest step in the right direction. And what you'll find is that your brain will feel compelled to fill in the rest. When you start by writing just a word, you end up your brain just tells you, oh, well, let's write the next word. Let's figure out what that would mean in a sentence. And then that sentence, what does that sentence mean in a paragraph? And before you know it, you've written pages and pages down. I'm using writing as an example, but creativity can come from anything or doing anything. The point is, take just the smallest step and see where that leads. If you don't take that step at all because you want to stay in a state of overwhelm, you'll never get anywhere. Another thing you can do, and I think this is kind of the master level, is you can copy those you admire. And you might think, well, copying people I admire, how is that a masterful technique? Well, it's not copying that's impressive. It's your ability to look at what you've copied and notice the differences. If you take somebody else's work and try and recreate it, look for the differences between their actual work and what you created. The difference is really what your style is. That's what is uniquely you. That is what is creative about you that is outside of the people you admire. That is what you should expand upon and grow upon. That's the upper level 10 ninja version of improving your creativity, but it's a pretty powerful technique. There are some pretty common mistakes that people make along the way of trying to become more creative. One of those is simply doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. Now, we've heard that a million times, but what people don't seem to identify with this is that their emotions are often in the wrong state, and they keep trying to do things feeling the same way. If you want different results, you not only have to change maybe your approach, but you might want to change the way you feel about it. And an easy little formula for that I like to use is you change the notion, you change the way you're thinking, which changes your emotion, and then you start in motion. So get the notion, feel the emotion, start in motion, and yeah, I know that was a little poppy and trendy sounding, maybe a little motivational speaker sounding, but I really go through that kind of process where I'm like, I'm gonna start this new project. Do I really feel like I'm in the mood for that? Well, what would the mood look like? How do I get to feel that way? I'm gonna get into that emotional state and then I'm gonna go for it. And without doing that, I might never reach a successful state of creativity that I'm trying to acquire. Another very, very common mistake is simply being afraid of failing. Of course, we all experience this. It stops a lot of people in their tracks, but realizing that we're very small, we don't ultimately matter in the scheme of things, and people aren't really going to be judging us very harshly. Although I say that, and then sometimes I look at my comments and I'm like, yeah, I know I'm bald. Thanks for bringing it into my attention. Yeah, I failed on growing hair. I get it. No, I'm kidding. People's judgment doesn't matter. Let that stuff go. And oftentimes that fear of failure is really the fear of other people's judgment upon your failure. So if you can let that fear of failure go, it can really liberate you to become more creative. Also, having just a general lack of confidence, whether that's fear of judgment or fear of ambiguity, the fear of not knowing what's going to happen next, can scare a lot of people into just not getting out of their shell, not getting into maybe a zone that might be slightly uncomfortable for them, where they're taking steps or trying things or exploring ideas that they've never looked at before. And if that self-confidence is an issue for you, I just created a video about self-confidence, which I will link up here. In fact, it was the last video I put out. If you want to see my other videos, also hit the subscribe button. In fact, hit the subscribe button anyways, even if you don't want to see it, but share these videos if you find them valuable, and I hope to see you on the next one.